So I got my pal John Gafford here from Simply Vegas. We're going to talk stats for LVR for December and January. John, thanks for joining.
Oh, happy to be here, George.
So pretty good January.
It was a great January, an amazing January.
I followed it from last year. Last year we closed around 2,100 homes in January, about 21 and change this year. So not a huge change, but what's your take on the market? What's the pulse?
Well, there was a huge change actually in those numbers, though, is what we saw. And this is not a plug for my company. I'm using this actually because it works for the stats. Because something happened in the first month of 2025 that was actually really an anomaly and amazing to us. We finished the first month of business in the first slot, number one for highest volume. And that's really strange because we should not have finished there. And the reason that we did is if you look at the numbers, we had the highest average sales price we've ever had as a company in that first quarter. And if you look at the market, it kind of says that the high end was flying. We sold a bunch of really expensive houses in that first month, but the stuff towards the bottom of the market really was a little slower. We talked about it. We said, man, the people that are least scared of inflation and least scared of interest rates and least scared of the impact of these tariffs
or the upper end,
were still driving and doing what they wanted to do with housing, whereas the people that might be a little more sensitive to this were maybe holding off in that first quarter.
So our median price now is $485,000, which is a record. So we're up about 10K from the prior. So do you think that's luxury sales, seven-figure houses that are averaging that number up?
Absolutely. We were over 700,000 as an average sales price at one point, which was never for us that high. It's already receded back a little bit, and we're starting to see things normalize a little bit with the numbers, not just with our company, but with the others. But yes, absolutely, it was all the high end just driving the market for the first month of the year.
One of the questions I want to ask you was affordability. I always worry, you know, you and I have been selling homes here when they were in the hundreds and then 200s. Now we blink, we're getting close to 500. Are we starting to price people out here in Las Vegas?
Well, what does price people out? I mean, if you look at our market versus many of the others around, or even the region through California, and now even Phoenix has gotten so expensive, I think we're on pace to still be affordable. If you look at what's happened in Las Vegas over the last 10 years, I can't think of any other city in the entire country that literally has had almost every major sport move in over that short of a time frame. So you've got massive growth there. We've got all of these new industries starting to move in. I think gaming will always be king, but you're starting to see all these other industries relocate.
And
the studios, the Sony, all of these things that are on tap. I looked at, we always liked to, there used to be a website called, what was it, Vegas then and now and today, where you could see the stuff then and stuff that came up. And I looked the other day at a report that I got from Nevada State Bank, the private bank, the high net worth report, and it was showing all of the projects that are on tap, from the new arena with the hotel there, to the Sony studios, to all of these things. And the growth is incredible. Now, obviously, we've been here long enough to know that not all that stuff's going to happen.
No.
But even if half of it is to happen, it's going to have such an impact on our local economy. It's going to be incredible.
I was surprised. Condo sales were down. I would have thought that where prices get tight, rates are higher, it's harder to, qualify for a home. Like in California. In California, you got several families living in one home because they have an affordability issue. I figured people would go into smaller dwellings, but it seems like people are still gravitating to homes.
Yeah, I don't think that had so much to do, like I said, with condos being a segment of the market that was ignored. I think that many people that were in that lower end of the market, that first home, that affordability that they're looking for, are a little hesitant right now based on the fact of what the economy is doing, what the president's agenda is possibly going to do to the economy, and they're waiting a little bit.
All right, trying to take a step back for all the members that log in and will see this video that maybe aren't doing the production that you and I and some of our agents do. When they're sitting with a seller or a buyer, what advice do you have for someone who's not is in tune with the market as you are?
I think that's a big question. There's a lot of answers to that go with that. But let's start with sellers first off. I think that sellers are in a transitional phase right now. 6, 7, 8 months ago, you put your house on the market, it sold in 21 days. It was like back to 2005, 2006 again, right? I'm going to get my number. I'm making no concessions, and I'm not even going to pay anybody. But that was the thought process. But now, as houses sit a little bit, now as, with 35 days, I get calls, God bless them, I'll get at least one call from one of my agents a week. And they'll say something like, can you please look at this listing? I don't know why it's not selling.
What's wrong with it?
And what's wrong with it? Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And I pull it up and I'm like, it's been on the market for 24 days. Like, a little bit of patience is fine. But I think that listing agents, and especially if you're somebody that doesn't do this a lot, you get your 1 or 2 listings a year, you need to understand that the best way to help your seller make decisions in a changing or fluid market is by providing them with data like we're trying to give you guys data right here. You need to set once a week on like Tuesday where you're giving them, number one, anything that came on the market that's competing with them, anything that has gone into escrow, more importantly, that is competing with them, and actual feedback from every showings. You know, like today I was on a coaching call with an agent and they said, everybody says the house needs work. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Because if you call a seller and say it needs work, there's no data there. Does it need paint? Does it need flooring? Tell them exactly what it needs to be done. Because if you provide your sellers with real market data, as far as the market is speaking, it is a fluid, real thing, then they will be able to make better decisions about pricing, about concessions as they go forward.
So the communication with the seller once an agent has a home listed is so important. If you go a couple weeks without talking to them, there's that awkward feeling when you finally pop your head up and say, hey, seller, do you want to talk about the price reduction? Or do you want to talk about, allow me a chance for better photos? If you're in it with them right from the beginning and reminding them, maybe this wasn't my price, but I said I would float it, your way for 2 weeks. So the once a week communication. What about buyers?
Well, I'm going to say this. If your seller ever calls you and says, what's going on, you have failed. You have failed right away. And I'm going to give you one more little thing that you can use for sellers that is very effective, especially in a fluid changing market. So many times listing agents go in and absolutely hang their hat on a price. This is the price we're going to get. You need to be presenting any price you give to a seller as, my job is to expose this price in this house to as many people as I can to drive traffic to the house. The market is going to speak to us. If nobody shows up, we're 10% off the price. If people show up, but we don't get any offers, they're using your house to sell other ones. They're saying, yeah, you can get this for $400, but look over here what you can get for $400. That's 5 to 7% off. Where you want to be is 3 to 5% off the market, so you have room to negotiate, give concessions, help people buy down rates, and be effective to get your house sold.
I used to say the early showings were those.
Yeah.
Early in the day, they set up the losers, and then they bring the winner in.
They bring the winner last.
Closer. So you've been doing it long enough. All right, so buyers, rates are right around 7%.
Yeah.
I tell people, if you can afford it and you have a need for dwelling, why not buy a piece of Las Vegas?
Well, 100% with that. But if you look at with buyers, it's like this. When's the best time to buy a house? 30 years ago. We can't do that, right? It's the same thing with planting a tree. The second best time to plant a tree? Right now. There are so many people that have to do what we do, that they have to do something. They're getting divorced, unfortunately. They're having a kid. They got a new job. They're relocating here. There are so many people that have to wade into the troubled waters, if you call it, with interest rates, that is the real estate market right now. And so many agents want to stand on the beach and yell, you're going to drown if you go in that water, when our real job is to be the lighthouse on the other side that guides them through a tumultuous time. Right now is a wonderful time for buyers because those sellers are freaking out a little bit as they move through that change in mindset between I can get what I want to I can be a little more generous. You can use that money to buy down rates, to get a better payment, to do those things that you want to do.
What you just said reaffirms why I think the real estate agent will always have a role in the transaction. Always. Because they find a home online, it can be a portal or anything, a widget, and they can push the button, but they're always looking for somebody to say, yes, you can do this. Yes, you should do this. They always want a pat on the back, the attaboy. How many times have you showed a house and they're always looking at you like, what do you think? And you're like, well, I'm not the one buying it, but it's nice.
Yeah.
They want you to nod your head. And that's why we're here, is to give them that little bit of encouragement, right? Positivity, a blessing of sorts. And that's why I think the real estate agent will always exist and thrive.
I've always said, when people said that real estate agents were going to go the way of travel agents, I've always said, I don't ever need anybody to tell me it's okay to book a cruise.
That's right. I love it.
I'm fine.
I love it. I love it. All right. So for the members out there too, like let's say, trying to plan for the year, is the spring going to be the boom? Typically, we see inventory contract in December. People don't like to list their homes around the holiday. Then you see a few more homes hit in January and February. I've always had big, March, April, May have always been the heat of the market for me. Do you think that's what we're going to see coming up?
I don't want to say an answer to that, and I'll tell you why. There are some agents in this town that had unbelievable Januaries. And the reason they had unbelievable Januaries is because they were working like crazy in November and December when all of the talking heads and everybody in the world says the market is slow. So the reality of it is, my answer to that is the market will be as busy as you work.
but we only closed 2,100 homes in the Valley.
I
so
agree.
if you think about the 15 or 16,000 agents and only closing 2,100 homes, somebody should be hungry and be willing to work right now. And if you work in February, you'd be closing in April, May, right?
We're looking for
April,
April,
May. It takes a little bit of time. So I'm thinking you said it's going to be busy if they're willing to work the way they did in November. So
statistically speaking, the spring is always better, right? And I think just like we are programmed to say that, I think homeowners understand that as well. People don't want to make moves while their kids are still in school. They like to make moves during the summertime so they can get their kid from one school to another, or hopefully stay in the same school district if they like. But there's a lot more relocation that happens in between that time. So yes, the market will be exponentially higher. Now, long-term outlook, my number, I'm curious what your number is for interest rates. What's your floodgate number?
Oh, I'm curious what it is. If you ever see a 5, look out.
Yeah, I think
if you ever see a 5, look out. Gas up your car.
I think for me, 5.5 is the floodgate number because at 5.5, all of the people with the golden handcuffs and their 3% rates on their house will now move them. And I can't wait. Eventually it has to happen.
If 3 years ago you told me we'd have 7 and we would hold the median price here, I would have not believed it.
You wouldn't have believed it.
No, but I mean, it just shows you supply's tight. There's not that many homes on the market, and then you rule out the homes that are in the real high threshold that they're not going to trade. You got homes with solar. You got some homes that are harder to sell. There's a sliver that actually transact every month, like the middle. They hit, within 3 weeks they have an offer, and they close like 6-8 weeks later. So big picture, John, you think we're going to have a good spring?
I think it's going to be a good spring. I think it depends again. I think if in this business, if you are consistent in what you're doing and you put forth the effort, there's always deals for you. So be positive with your clients. I mean, like I said before, be the lighthouse. Don't be the naysayer standing on the beach yelling at people they're going to drown. Because again, let's say you buy a house today, right? The rate. Most mortgage companies will refi that loan at zero cost to the consumer for up to 12 months.
Yeah, but you can't refi the price a year from now lower if the market goes up,
right?
The
price is the price.
So you get to lock your price. Yeah, you got to swallow the higher payment, but yeah, you get a write-off on your mortgage if it's a primary. There's lots of benefits to buy in. I think that's why most people are jumping in. They don't want to miss out. FOMO is a big thing.
And I think you're seeing with the rental rates in the Valley where you talk about affordability. I mean, is rentals, are they that affordable anymore? I don't think so.
No, but they've come down. I mean, there was a window of time when it was cheaper when rates were 2%. You could buy anything and probably pay less monthly for shelter than renting. And now I think they've balanced. So you have to decide, do you want to get an increase in rent notice every 12 months? Do you want to have to take your pictures off the wall? Like you buy the home, you hire your realtor, and you get to basically build your life. I love it.
Yeah. And I think one more thing that was on here that I looked at that I thought was interesting was it was talking about the home builders cranking up, inventory and building a lot more houses and pulling more permits to try to meet the demand. And anybody that thinks that that's going to oversaturate supply because home builders, I completely disagree. It's going to be the greatest thing ever when those rates do tip back down. Because it's not just going to be like, it's not going to be back like it was in 05, 06 when you had all of these buyers rushing to buy whatever and there wasn't enough inventory. You're going to see the inventory open up.
Yeah, because now the sellers can unlock because they're all tied up, right? That's what you meant by the handcuffs.
It's going to be magical. So listen, again, like I said, just get up and work every single day. Get a plan, follow it, and keep working because I promise you, those are going to be magical days.
You got it. So, John, we're going to include the stats because we kind of went, high level, broad topic, which I think is actually more valuable to our membership. But I want to thank you so much for coming out here. It was so amazing.
Worst stats video ever, but probably the best conversational points to help you sell houses.
Yeah, I can't thank you enough for coming out. And thanks again, bud.
Happy to be here, man. Anytime.